Good morning,
Sorry.
everyone.
It's Erev Yontif, gotta feed.
Right, right,
Okay.
right. Yes. So tonight we're going to celebrate Matan Torah, and that is celebrating both the experience of having received Torah and the content of the text. And when we look at the Ten Commandments, wait a minute, before I go on, I didn't purposely, I've not got a sheet in front because I really want to see you. As a result, I've asked that everybody gets hold of a chumash that you're comfortable with. Okay, everybody, if you like chumash with a translation, without a translation, please, everybody, get hold of chumash. Take a half a minute; it's worth the time, and go get yourself a chumash and open it, please, to Shmot, Exodus chapter 20. That's the Ten Commandments. Chapter 19 is the experience of receiving it and the days coming up to it. Chapter 20 is the content. And it's always a big debate. What do we want to think about on Shavuos? But I'm going for the content, even though you can't completely separate content and experience. I'm going for the content today. And I'm going with a question that many people asked and have asked over hundreds and hundreds of years, which was, why these? I mean, we're used to them. So it's obvious that those should be the Ten Commandments. But when you look at them, is it obvious? Why these? Um, and I think there've been three theories. I'm quite happy if somebody wants to say something, if they put up a hand and unmute themselves for a minute, if they feel I skip a really important idea or they have an important question, because to read chat and talk at the same time is not an easy thing to do. So if somebody has something they want to ask or say, I'm comfortable with them just putting up their hand. So there have been three theories. One theory was and is that these are the most fundamental aspects of building our relationship with God and our relationships with each other. Let's think about the Ten Commandments. What have we got here? The first, we have to start by saying it's not 10 Commandments at all. It's in Hebrew, Aseret HaDibrot. It's described in the Torah as Dvarim or Dibrot, which means utterances. Hard to talk about God uttering. The words got too much of a human feel, but it's utterances. It's 10 different command ideas about how we should live. And it's not 10 different commands. Somebody's suggesting we're expecting a siren. I haven't heard a siren in Jerusalem, so I'm okay for the moment, hopefully. I'm sorry to hear that there's one. 10 different dibrot, utterances. There's a midrash which is brought in the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, that each one of the 10 commandments is like an aroma, a magnificent aroma that fills the air, and is so much fills the air that there's no space for another commandment. As you could build your own relationship just on any one of them. And so God wants to bring another commandment into the world, but he can't, because nobody will be able to tell, because there's this very strong aroma of the first one. And so he brings a wind which sort of blows that aroma away and brings the next commandment into the world, or the next dibra. Maybe we should use the word dibra from the word ledaber, into the world. So each one of these 10 commandments, there's something very fundamental about them. The first one is Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am the Lord your God. And the Jewish philosophers, of course, have a big discussion about whether that really means is a commandment to believe, or it's a statement. It's an introductory statement. It's an utterance, but not a commandment. It's the basis. It's the creation of the relationship. But others, like Maimonides, think it's an actual commandment to believe. And then we go on to not having other gods and having Shabbat. And we're building a basic relationship with God. And then we've got the basics of life with others. So you could say these are: don't murder, don't steal, don't commit adultery. These are the basics of don't covet other people's things, be an honest witness. real basics of society. So it could be these are the sort of 10 fundamentals, instead of 10 commandments, 10 fundamentals. Or are these the laws? Oh, there is a siren.
Stop.
I'm not
Get
too
off.
worried.
Yeah. No, you can go wherever you have to go. It's okay.
Okay, I'm going to try and go and
Yeah.
see if I can, if my computer works
Okay.
where I
Yeah,
have
go.
to.
Yeah. Go.
Okay,
Go. Of course.
okay. You just wait 1 minute. Uh, you don't get very stressed out in Jerusalem, but
Unfortunately,
still,
people get used to
okay.
everything.
Let's
That's
see.
okay.
Okay, I'm just going to whether or not this will work in the basement. So far, can you hear me still?
So far, so good.
All right. Looks to me like it's going to work. 1 second. I don't know why the electricity's not working down here. Uh, just 1 minute. There seems to be a problem with the electricity. Okay. All right. So, okay. You all still there?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, we live
Okay.
in an insane world, but okay. Torah, whatever. Let the
We're
All
all here
right.
and happy
protect
that
us.
you're there,
Well,
so
all right. Well, what
happy
else
you're
should I
okay.
do while the sirens are? What am I going to do? Sit and mope? I
You
might
can
just as well learn with
too
you.
while the sirens sorting out.
Right. The
This
truth
is
is that thank God in Jerusalem it's pretty harmless. Uh, so that aspect is very rarely a problem. Okay, so we had one possibility. These are the fundamentals of our existence as a society, as individuals. It's very interesting that they're in the singular. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, your God, and that singular can be at the one and the same time for everyone as a group together, and for every individual. Right? You can take the 10 Commandments one way or the other. So one idea is that they're fundamentals. Another idea is that's what we needed at that point, having just gotten out of Egypt. Don't give me Taharat HaMishpacha, I have to go to mikveh. And don't give me Shemitah about land of Israel and whether or not I should have a king. I just got out of Egypt, right? They're not necessarily our fundamentals always, but they're what we needed at that point. And the third possibility that's been very much out there is that these are a sort of outline for all of the mitzvot. That these are the 10 categories of mitzvot. They're not just the 10 fundamental ways of creating ourselves and our society. They're all the categories of all the mitzvot. Right? If you think that, and quite a few have, you've got to then try to see how they fit. And this can be a wonderful exercise, a great game with children. You don't have to be right or wrong. It makes you think twice about a lot of mitzvot and how are they connected and what's their main point. So it's a lot of fun to actually play. We'll get to it in a little while. But I want to start with the 10 Commandments themselves and take a little look at them, another look at them for a moment. Besides being these things that develop our relationship with God and with others, there's another way to look at them, which is if you start with the first one, it's about your mind and your feeling. God saying to you, I'm your God. Don't have any other God. Then it moves on. I mean, you're also supposed not to make physical idols, but the main point is having the other God, believing it. And then it moves on to speech. Don't take God's name in vain. And then it moves on to Shabbat, which includes speech like Zachor et Yom HaShabbat, remember the Shabbat with Kiddush, and it includes Shamor, don't do work on Shabbat. And then it comes to take care of your parents, which includes a lot of action and speech. And then it gets to total action-packed mitzvahs. Lo titzach, lo tinaf, lo tignov, don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal. It reminds me of Beethoven's ba 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 bum. Yes, you get to a point. It's as if the Torah also doesn't want to give any detail. First, I just want to tell you, you can't murder. Afterwards, we'll discuss what that means. When there are times that there's a necessity for killing. God forbid, but it can happen. I'll discuss that, but not now. First, the basic point is lo tirtzach. lo tinaf. Afterwards, we'll discuss lo tignov. Then we get back to speech. Don't be a false witness. Lo taneh be'echa. And then we get back into the human being emotionally with lo tachmod, not to covet what someone else has. So we've got a movement in these 10 commandments in terms of God and human beings, and also in terms of our innermost self moving outward to speech and action, and back inward to speech and then into the self. And of course, this can act as making the 10 commandments very fundamental, and also making them categories for everything that comes later. Now, what's missing? What isn't in the 10 commandments? And if this class had more time, oh my gosh, I've left I left my watch upstairs, but I see I have a clock on the laptop. It's okay. Sorry about that. What is missing? What's not in the 10 commandments? Kashrut, community, kashrut, shmita, all kinds of tzedakah, mikvah, Beit HaMikdash, having a Beit HaMikdash. There's a lot that's not there. Korbanot, thank you, sacrifices. There's a lot of things that are just not there. How do we relate to that? As I said, one theory is to say, Chagim, yes, thank you, Chagim. One theory is to say, these are the categories for everything else that's coming later. So let's put the Chagim with Shabbat. Let's put with lo tachmod, with not coveting, let's put love your neighbor as yourself. Let's put, there are a lot of things that are going to go with not stealing. Where are you going to put kashrut? Philo put it in lo tachmod, which he thought that do not covet was about restraint. Okay, Debbie's saying these are foundational and universal. Fine. We can decide we're not going in this direction necessarily, and we say these are the more basic, and then the rest of the mitzvot come afterwards. This is part of our covenant in some kind of deep way, and we then have a lot of other mitzvot. If you compare the 10 commandments to the 7 mitzvot Noachide commandments, they're almost the same. We have an extra of respecting parents, not coveting, and Shabbat, but the rest is pretty much the same. And there's in the 7 ones, there's the behavior to animals, Tzar Balei Chayim, which is very interesting. So it's very similar, and therefore you could argue that this is just the fundamentals of human behavior, ideal human behavior, and that may be so. But there were many Jewish thinkers who thought these are also the heads of categories. So that you can have something like kashrut. If you get Philo, he thought that kashrut belongs with lo tachmod because it's a mitzvah, it's an utterance which is about holding oneself back, feeling that what one has is sufficient. Very, very interesting. Other people said, no, it doesn't belong there at all. The Ramban tried to put them in categories, but he ended up with almost everything being in the first one. I'm the Lord who took you out of Egypt. He keeps on going back. Well, because of that, we feel this and we need to do that. And most of the Ben Adam L'Chavero, the mitzvot about relationships with other people, he ended up sticking in Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I'm the God who took you out of Egypt. So anyway, as an example, I thought we'd take one of the 10 commandments and look at the ripples in the rest of the mitzvot, in the rest of Torah, that we could argue are ripples that come from that. So I wanted to take lo tirtzach because it's one of the ones that's so terse in the 10 commandments. Now, the first thing that happens is that the Mechilta, which is a midrash from the time of the Tanaim, from the time of the Mishnah, it suggests reading the 10 commandments horizontally. Like I see that we have the pleasure of seeing an example of how we imagine the 10 commandments were with Anochi Hashem and Lo Titzach opposite each other on these carved. We all know that's how the 10 commandments looked. Of course, we have no idea how they look, but we all we use this. So thank you very much, David, for putting that up there. We can see it there. We've got Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I'm the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt, is opposite do not murder. And they said, read it across. That's very good. Because if you really believe in God, that every human being has a tselem Elokim, an aspect of God, as in the beginning of Genesis, the beginning of Bereshit, then you can't murder. And they give an example of a king who has lots of, how do you say, some not idols, statues with his bust, or lots of coins with his face on them. And somebody comes and knocks down those statues. Now, this is a very current issue, yes, with in the US, knocking down statues. I don't know if in Canada as well, but certainly in the US, it's a very big issue. We don't want that statue in our square. Yes, allowing or not allowing a statue to be there is an important issue. So the Mechilta suggests that every human being is like a statue of God. Yes, he's got some aspect of God. To kill a human being is to destroy Etzelem Elokim, and therefore there's a deep relationship between Anochi Hashem Elokecha and Lo Titzach. I would say more than a relationship. They're interwound with each other. One is the other side of the coin from the other. If you believe in God and you believe in the way God explained in Bereshit, then you have to accept Lo Titzach. That is the worth of the other human being. So that's one thing, that you see Lo Titzach in that way, not only as some negative command, but as an affirmation of godliness in human beings, or the potential for godliness in human beings, at least. And then we ask, what happens later? What happens later in the Chumash? What other kind of mitzvahs are? Well, one of the things that we have is the idea that sometimes somebody is a rodef. He's trying actually to do something terrible to somebody else. It might be rape and it might be murder. And there's the mitzvah to actually prevent that, even if it means loss of that other person's life. So saving a life could end up meaning somebody losing a life in order to save life. And that's part of understanding Lo Titzach, that you have to save. Now, where does the saving life come? Because in Vayikra, which we just read recently, in Parshat Kedoshim, in chapter 19 in Vayikra, there's a mitzvah there, Lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. Don't stand on or by your brothers or your friends or your neighbors. It's not hard what a rea is, your mates, someone with some relationship to you, their blood. Don't stand by if somebody's in danger. And that danger could be they're drowning. It could be they're in danger from another human being. It could be they're drowning, God forbid. It could be 1,001 dangers. But don't stand by. But it's a very odd mitzvah because it comes as a prohibition. You are prohibited to stand by and not do anything. Why not have a positive commandment? You should save a person in trouble. And because these are half-hour shiurim, there isn't time for you to mull over this and come up with your own ideas before I put an idea on the table, which is the real way to study, of course. But what is the point? Why is it a prohibition? What do we gain by the prohibition, or what do we lose by the fact that it's stemming from this Lo Titzach, and it's coming to not only you can't get up and murder someone, but you can't stand by when another person is in danger. Now, it's very interesting because there's another verse in Parshat Bahar, which we read even more recently, which says, if your brother is falling and his hand is dropping, grab him and hold him, ger v'toshav, also a stranger and a proselyte, v'chayimach, and he should live with you. And Ramban understands, Rambam doesn't bring this in the same kind of way, but Ramban understands that though the context there is poverty, that this is a positive mitzvah to save others. And it's not a mitzvah that's, whereas the first one, might have been Re'echa was another Jew only. This is a broader mitzvah. It's a broader mitzvah because it's coming in positive terms, and it's a broader mitzvah because it includes people who live among you. Ger v'toshav, human beings who live among you. Decent human beings who live among you. V'chazakta bo, hang on to him, hold him or her. So this is some of the ripples that are coming out of Lo Tirzach. And these are the obvious ripples, I think, that are coming out of Lo Tirzach. But are there less obvious ripples in other mitzvot that are coming out of Anochi Hashem Elokecha Lo Tirzach? That couplet, that connection between I'm God and I have my Tzelem Elokim in everyone, and therefore don't murder. What else is coming out of that couple? Now, so for the Ramban, so much came out of it. Then what about tzedakah in general? So that the person won't get to the point that they're in danger. Does that come out of that? Or should we put tzedakah under lo tachmod? Don't want what somebody else has. Have enough. Where should we put shmita? Should we put it under Shabbat? Oh, it fits beautifully under Shabbat. There's even one or two verses in the Chumash that are not clear if they're talking about Shabbat or Shmita, right? It's a form of Shabbat, but it's a different kind of Shabbat. It's a Shabbat that's got more of the element of Bein Adam L'Chaveiro, because Shmita includes don't work the land because you acknowledge it's God's, but Shmita also includes let go of loans to others who can't afford to pay back. And it also includes leave your things when you're not working the land, but it's not yours, and somebody else can come and take whatever they need to eat, just like you can come and take from your field whatever you need to eat. So can someone else. This is so shocking I think, to a 21st century perception of reality that we don't really take it in, right? But Shemitah is, I think, issuing from some combination of Anochi Hashem Elokecha who took you out of Egypt, and the Shabbat, and also the Lo Tachmod, not wanting what others have. Because normally we think of Lo Tachmod as don't want what somebody else has. You got yours, and they've got theirs. But many aspects in Yiddishkeit, like brachot, actually something beyond that. They say it's not even really yours. Everything is really God's. Kili haaretz. It's really God's. And when you make a bracha, why are you making a bracha? You're making a bracha because you're acknowledging that it's God's, and therefore you can also eat from it because you're together with God. I heard a wonderful idea that it's like when you give teruma to the Kohen, to the priest, you can't eat from it, but the Kohen's family can eat from it, and even their donkey can eat from it. You can't, it's too holy, but even his donkey. So you're saying to God, it's really yours. When you make a bracha, you acknowledge it's really God's, and I can have it because I'm like a member of your household, or maybe even just the little pussycat that's there. But I'm part of the household, and therefore I make a bracha, I acknowledge, and then I can have. So, what happens here is that whether these 10 commandments are something that was what we needed as we came out, and we didn't need to be made complicated by starting to talk about kashrut even, or even certainly not a king, or shmita in the land, which we didn't have yet. Whether these, and it's surprising because sacrifices would have been very, very obvious to us. So it's surprising then that they're not there. Whether it's that, or whether these are the fundamentals, or whether these are the categories for all the mitzvot, whatever it is, I think trying to look at the 10 commandments and then look at other mitzvot and trying to say, well, how does this one connect? Either because these are the 10 categories or because they're fundamental. How does these connect? How are these ripples out of these basic tree or leaves on the branches of a tree? Yes, have we got branches and a lot of leaves. And really what we might end up saying is, no, don't make them absolute categories. Look at the Ten Commandments as this flow from the mind to speech to action, back into the speech and into emotion, and find the way the mitzvahs flow from this more fluid doctrine. You have to remember the Ten Commandments were originally heard, not read. We heard them, and they need to be heard. And I think they have an amazing rhythm. So one of the things I think we need to do is to try and experience them in that kind of way, and then try and feel where the other commandments flow from them, but not necessarily from one or two specific ones, but from a much broader sense of feeling the Ten Commandments in this kind of flow, and also by reading them across. And the Midrash goes on and says, if you read them across, well, idolatry is like adultery in English. It's easy to remember. And of course, we have many places in the Tanakh where the metaphor of adultery is used for idolatry. And then it talks about saying, taking God's name in vain and stealing. And are we trying to use God's name for our own use? Right. Very, very interesting question. What is that? And then there's Shabbat, mul testimony, opposite testimony, false testimony, because Shabbat testifies that God created the world. And to many, the most interesting one is the fifth one, where relationship with parents is connected to not coveting, feeling that you have enough, that parents have to hold children so that children will feel, I have a good enough parent. This is okay. The home I was in was okay. Because if you can't establish that, you can't go out and have enough. And you spend your whole life trying to get. So if you see the Ten Commandments that way, both as separate aroma that almost you need nothing else besides that commandment, but also as connected to each other, then I feel that you can feel the leaves on the tree or the ripples that the other mitzvot take on. But you can also say, no, these are the fundamentals. They're more universalistic, and they're more basic. And the other mitzvot are there once we have the Ten Commandments. They're there then to be with God in that once we've already made the Ten Commandments. So I think you can go either way. You can have a lot of fun at the table with what to do about these relationships. Because there's no right answer and wrong answer, it can give you a very alive Shavuot, and I hope you have a wonderful Shavuot, and your learning takes you to places where you've never been before. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Thank you so much. Be safe and have Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach, Rabbi Grossman, you're early. I got unshare, but okay. Thank you, thank you, Gilla, especially. And listen, I think the Jewish people are amazing. You know, your sirens are. By the way, they reported Israel shot down the missile. Thank God. So
thank you very much.
But I think
I thought I wasn't going to go back upstairs. I
of
just
course
stay
not.
here
Of course not. I realize, but this is the Jewish people, you know, through thick and thin. And what can I say? You know, you people are on the front lines. We are, you know, living. Not that things are wonderful in Chutzlaritz anymore, but it's different. But anyways,
Well,
thank you very much.
It was lovely to spend the time of the siren with all of you.
100.
And if anybody wants to follow up anything, you can feel free to send in something you want to mention or whatever, or follow up. I'm always happy to do that.
Thank you. Okay.
All the best.
Okay, all the best. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, Rabbi Grossman, now you can share your screen if you'd like. Well, give people 45 seconds to stretch or and maybe get a cup of coffee. As we learned last night, it's the invention of coffee that allowed Tikkun Leil Shavuot to happen. Yes. That's a beautiful idea. Correct. But it's right. And all these things. My son said, I told him that, he said, what about electricity? Like, it should be the invention of electricity. Like, it wasn't so easy to learn even with coffee. You didn't have any lights. So I guess that's Adam Wintershire when you light candles and all that. Okay, Rabbi.